All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Excess Exceed. This is Gearface. Very, very excited to be here with you all. And I'm joined by Migo once again. Delighted to have you, Migo. Thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure as always.
Awesome. We'll see how you feel about it being a pleasure after we've done 8 of these and you're sick of me. But for now at least, I haven't scared him off yet. Today we are talking about Nagoriyuki, a really, really, really cool character. I am incredibly excited to learn a little bit about Nago. Um, really, really looking forward to this one. Don't know a ton about him, and the stuff I do know makes him seem like he's hard to play. So I'm looking forward to learning some stuff. A couple quick disclaimers before we get started. Number one, we're going to be playing to win. We're going to talk about playing to win on this show, and that's not the only way to play Exceed. You can play for fun. And if the way that we're describing how you play this character doesn't sound fun to you, please play the way that you do find fun. Um, we can't legally tell you otherwise. Please play the way you enjoy, and if that's not this, then find play the way that you want to play. Number two, typically on this show, we're pretty absolute. We're pretty prescriptive about strategy, just for brevity and time's sake. You're going to hear Migo say things like "always do this" or "never do this" or "this is always the right play here," things like that. Um, asterisk next to every single one of those things. I'm not an expert at all. Migo is an expert, but even his opinion is just an informed one. We don't know everything. This character just came out in print. There's a lot more to be discovered about him. So if we underrepresent a line, or you think that you think you know better, you might. And we could all stand to learn something. So please tell us where we're wrong here. Final
Yes.
disclaimer specifically for Guilty Gear characters, for Season 7 characters. If you're brand new to the Exceed community, if you've come in just because of Guilty Gear Strive, the board game, welcome. Hope you enjoy your stay. You might hear Migo and I talk about a couple of cards by different names than you're used to, specifically Dust and Slash over here. If you know them by those names, you might hear us say Spike and Assault. Same card. Just a cosmetic difference. Migo and I have been around for a little while, and that's what the old people call them. Uh, other than that, other than those little cosmetic differences, if we refer to something that you don't know, please feel free to ask in the Breakfast Club Discord. That's pretty much it. Uh, all that said, Migo, tell me a little bit about Nagoriyuki.
Oh, I just wanted to say that great point about these characters being very new and have a lot to grow from because Nago especially, I feel like not many people play him.
Mm,
So and there's a lot of ways you can play him. Well, I mean, his game plan is straightforward, but there's a lot of things, small things you can do with him
right.
that can vary
So
from player to player. So
so this is
like
this is going to be the
just my
rules to
perspective.
yeah, this is going to be the rules to your strategy on Nagoriyuki, and it doesn't have to be everybody's. But you have found success doing what you're going to describe, and that's probably a good starting point. And if other people want to take that and run with it, that sounds great.
Yeah, and it's like if other people find different ways of using a card or playing Nagoriyuki, I'm really happy to hear it because yeah, this character is new to me as well. So
Awesome. So yeah, let's get into it. What do you want to start with? Should we do character ability first? How do you want to structure this one?
well, let's start with character building because it's pretty much extremely important on this character.
Okay.
Extremely important. All right, so I mean, basically, like his front side UA. I mean, Nagoriki is a unique Exceed character because he's literally on a timer. He's fat. He goes through his deck faster than a lot of characters, and when he goes through his deck once, he's significantly weaker. So he has to basically play with one deck as much as he can and do as much damage he can with one deck before the reshuffle.
Okay.
Because yeah, his UA basically dictates that.
Okay.
So
So this isn't necessarily an advantage. This is unlike a lot of characters who are just getting benefit out of their character ability. Nagoriyuki, this might kill him.
yes, I think like well, I would say his UA is really good. It's just the problem is his flip side, which happens to reshuffle, is horrendous.
Okay.
So that is primarily why his front side is a double-edged sword. His front side is only a double-edged sword because his exceed side is so bad.
Okay. So on at the beginning of the game, Nagoriyuki has his specials have at cleanup, which is to say after you've hit, after effects, when the strike is over and things are going to their gauge and discard pile. He draws 4 and then discards 2. And that means that if he gets stunned, if he hits his opponent, if he whiffs, anytime a strike happens, offense or defense, that is happening. He cannot control that.
Correct. It's mandatory.
Okay.
Happens whenever he plays a special, no matter what.
Okay. And that's not ultras, it's specifically specials, but it's happening every single time. And when he gets to the end of his deck, and takes, and a reshuffle occurs, he exceeds automatically, no cost. And on his exceed mode, his specials are invalid, which means that none of these cards can be played as attacks anymore. His ultra still can.
Mm-hmm.
And his normals have some extra power, which is, I guess, a nice, consolation prize. And then he takes 2 non-lethal damage on top of all that.
Yep. It's basically the +1 power is, like you said, it's a compensation prize for how bad it is, because he's losing 2 life. Not only is he losing 2 life for every normal he plays, like on cleanup, because it says lose all armor here only because specifically non-lethal damage, armor applies to non-lethal damage as well. So the cleanup has to specify you lose all armor first.
Okay.
So basically the 2 damage is unavoidable no matter how much armor you have.
So he's this can't kill him, but it can get him down to 1 life, and that's pretty close to dying.
Oh yeah, your life can bleed out very fast to succeed Nago.
Okay.
So it's like not only do normals like kill you slowly, well not slowly, pretty fast actually.
Right.
Your specials, 1/3 of your deck is unusable. Like these 2 copies of each of these 5 cards, you cannot play them.
Right.
I mean, you can play the boost, but you cannot play them as attacks. So
right.
His options are severely limited. It's literally just normal man and Ultraman, and that's it.
Okay. And his normals are a little bit better, but maybe not so much better that he would like to take 2 damage every time an attack happens. So
yeah,
on front side, my normals are normal. They're not doing anything different, except that I might want to be keeping them for my exceed side because that's all I'm going to have. And on and my specials, maybe they're awesome right now. I'm getting to great. I'm drawing 4. I'm moving through my deck really fast. I'm getting all my great options. And then inevitably playing those awesome specials are going to move me towards my exceed mode.
Yeah.
Okay.
And obviously you still do want to play normals as attacks on front side probably because normals are the only way that you don't bleed through your deck if you don't want to force onto the flip side. If you want to stay on front side longer, you definitely should play normals as attacks.
Okay. So
the specials will turn to your deck very quickly.
And is that basically Nagoriyuki's like lost condition? Is that like if he stays on front side and is able to control his exceed mode or control the descent into his exceed mode, is he probably just winning the game at that point?
Yeah, he basically aims to do, as long as he can do as much damage as he can on his front side, then it's okay for him to flip. But he has to do a lot of damage on the front side. If for example, like the opponent is like, if both Nago and the opponent are healthy, they barely hurt each other, and then Nago ends up flipping, Nago is losing 100%. He's gonna, he's gonna run out of options, run out of ways to kill the opponent, and lose the game.
Okay.
Because he hasn't done enough damage. He has to do enough damage on his front side.
Okay, so I shouldn't think about it as I need to spend a lot of time, as in a lot of turns on front side, and I want to delay my exceed mode as much as possible. If I get to my exceed mode, but I've done 29 damage to my opponent, that that might be okay. Like I can afford to do it then. I shouldn't try to forestall it or delay the inevitable as long as I'm killing them.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, in most games you will flip. So sometimes you just have to accept it. It's just that how much damage can you do before you flip,
Okay.
Obviously there are blowout games where Nago has a lot of card economy from his UA. He has a lot of damage, so sometimes he will just kill the opponent before he even flips. But most of the time you are flipping.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And because there's no cost on this, like I'm not, I'm not building up gauge in order to exceed, and in fact, I'd rather not exceed if I can help it. I'm sure that has, economic implications about what my gauge is for. Excuse me, how I'm spending it. We can get into all of that later. But so the plan is on front side, wreck as many things as I can. Just hit them as hard as I possibly can. Delay frontside or delay exceeding any way I can by playing normals, but these specials are awesome. Play them and
Mhm.
hope that they're dying first.
Yes,
Okay,
you because if you don't kill them fast enough, Nago's gonna kill himself.
right. Okay, okay. Do we want to go through the kit as just attacks and boosts? Talk about their use cases, and then maybe come back and talk a little bit about strategy, about how you use all these things in order to do what we just said, in order to kill your opponent while you're still on front side or do a lot of damage on front side.
Sure. Yeah, we can go over the kit first before we go over the because Nago economy is very unique. So yeah, how he uses his force, how he uses his gauge is very unique economy. So that kind of
Okay.
deserves his own part. Yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good. Where do we want to start?
Let's start with specials first. I guess how do we do last time? I guess we started with
We
special
we
with the attacks first and then
yeah,
the boost later.
we talked attacks and we mostly talked like his most important cards when we talked about Gordeau earlier.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we can start with yeah. All right. So based on attacks, I would say these two are the most important. Um, this is very close behind, and then you kind of got these as his own kind of tier.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's
But
let's talk about the top ones first. Sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, they all. I'm just saying they all have a place in this kit. It's just that yeah. Obviously, these are based on these cards at top are basically the ones he wants to play a lot, and these are like more situational.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah.
And uh, every time we talk about any of these, viewers at home, just mentally add in that after he does anything with this card, if he whiffs or anything, he's drawing 4 and discarding 2 every single time. So that's always here on all these cards.
Yes. Yeah. So, but you have to just keep in mind that his cleanup applies to everything. So
Right. Yep. Okay.
yeah.
So Kamuriyuki is looking like a fast dive to me.
Yeah, it's fast dive. It's super slash, super assault, however you want to call it. Like Kamiruki is a crazy card, not because of the damage, but the fact that it's literally just this card but better.
It's just a better version of it, right?
Yeah. So obviously it's a painfully simple card, but it suits his game plan. It just allows him to get in and fight the opponent and keep on, because he wants to be close. He wants to be in opponent's face. Range 1, range 2, he loves that. So Kamiruki is just get in the opponent's face and fight them and try and kill them. Very
Okay.
simple card. Because it
And
has advantage, it's a good opener because of the 4 close 3. Um and it draws you a bunch. So yeah, it's really good.
right. And that's something that I got to keep in mind, that we just got done talking about how your exceed mode might kill you. Drawing a bunch of cards in for most of the game is great until suddenly it's very, very bad for you. Maintaining options and having advantage and stuff like that is going to let you just keep on killing your opponent with it.
Yeah. Nago can attack he can initiate strikes super often because he barely has to pause to catch a breath because the strikes just fuel themselves, right?
Right.
You strike with a special, you draw more options that you can strike with on your turn again. Preferably with cancels. So
Right. Yeah.
it's
Just to corner your opponent, to make your strikes totally unbeatable, just overwhelming them with offense until suddenly you can't do that anymore. I also noticed that Kamuriyuki's advantage is an after effect, which means that if we're in opening positions here, we've got, excuse me, ultras. If we got our buddy Ryu here, turn 1, I say, all right, strike Kamuriyuki, and Ryu plays cross and gets out of the way. He outspeeds me. I whiff. I still gained advantage, even though I didn't hit.
correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And usually, like a lot of advantage effects in this game are usually gain on hit. Not
Yep.
in the case for this card. It's you don't even care if the opponent crosses out. It's still your turn. You can still press the advantage. You can do Kamiruki. The opponent crosses out, fine, but they're in the corner now, and then you
Right.
can play something like Slash and just keep on attacking them. Keep
Right.
keep the offense up.
Okay. So I assume great opening play, but also just seems like it's just a strong play all game, that I'll always be wanting to be close to my opponent. This is like an anti-zoner tool. It seems like there's a lot, like, I mean, Slash is strong. There's lots of reasons to play Slash. This is just, like you said, it's just it, but better.
Yeah, like, you know, it goes through your deck fast, but that's the only quote unquote downside. Otherwise, it
Right.
does everything for you. It's so
Okay.
good. Like you can play this at range 2 on curve if you wanted to with +1 speed. You can play this at range 1.
Right.
You don't even care. Just play this at range 1. You can play this anywhere, almost
Right.
anywhere. It's
Right.
crazy good. Yeah.
Okay. And obviously, if I would prefer to not draw through my deck for some reason, like I'm about to exceed or something, Slash is right here. I could, like, if I don't want to draw 4 cards, that's what this is for, maybe.
Yeah. And obviously, yeah, Slash doesn't go through your deck, plow through your deck, so
Right. Okay.
you would still have reason to play Slash, other than the fact that, of course, Exceed side you're forced to play normals.
Right. Sure. Yeah. In Exceed mode, you have a
Yeah,
lot of reason to play Slash because you can't play this card.
yeah, you can play this card. Yeah,
Right. Okay.
that's an important thing to know as well. Is like most of the time the specials you only have access to it twice because
Right.
he has like a couple of small recursion effects, but they're very minor. Um, but otherwise, you're not gonna after you play this twice, you won't be able to. Usually won't be able to see it again.
Right.
So
Okay. And on my reshuffle, I'll see him again, but as a boost or as force or something, because my character ability won't let me use him as an attack anymore.
yep, you only see your special attacks like
Yeah.
twice. Yeah,
Yep.
so
Got
that's
it.
very
Okay.
important to note.
Okay. And then what about Shizuriyuki?
Nagoriyuki, yeah. So it looks kind of inconspicuous at first. It's just like 1 or 3. You would think like it's kind of like a sweep, like you know, similar range, almost similar guard, like slightly different speed and guard values. Like you would
Right.
think they're kind of like similar. Um, this one is just and this one the force cost here is very fake because Nagoriyuki has plenty of access to force because of his card draw. So you can usually find a lot of places to spend 2 force. Um, but once you do, you draw 2 on hit plus 3 power. So basically, you get sweeps damage. So
Yep.
1 3 6 3 5, pretty much all the time. And then you draw 2 on top of it. So you can basically this card basically does a good amount of damage, very reliable and safe, and draws you basically 6 cards.
Yeah,
Like
because hit draw 2, it's probably gonna hit. It's pretty consistent. Sweep's pretty consistent. This is like sweep, and then clean up, draw 4, discard 2 on top of that.
mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to be. This card is really good, but you just have to be wary about your hand and your hand size after that because you just have if you play this, you have to know what you're getting into when you play this because you will end up drawing a bunch because you
Right.
have to do this hit effect. This hit effect is pretty much mandatory. If you don't do this hit effect, you're wasting this card. So
Right.
you have to basically draw. Just keep in mind that you're drawing 6 basically.
Right.
Um,
And like just to put that in perspective in terms of how close that gets us to our exceed mode, that's like that's like a fifth of our deck is
yeah,
like like when we're
it's
talking
literally one
about,
fifth.
yeah, when we're talking about like prolonging and delaying your exceed side, he goes through cards really fast. And 30 is
Mhm.
not a lot. So you don't have that, it seems like you don't have that much time.
No, you don't. Yeah.
Okay.
That's why
So
I emphasize doing as much damage as possible because you're probably
right.
gonna flip.
Right, because it's just going to happen if you wild swing this card. Oh no! Now I'm 20% of the way to the thing that I'm afraid of. Okay, but
Mhm.
big economic advantage, huge economic advantage, and sweep damage for 2 force seems pretty good.
Yeah, it's extremely reliable. It draws you a bunch. The 2 force can be spent anywhere, so you can spend from gauge because like his exceed side is free, right? Like
Right.
he doesn't need to spend gauge to flip. His ultras are kind of not super great, so you can spend gauge pretty liberally as force even if you need to. So
Okay. And that also means that I'm kind of doubling up on resources that I've already spent, because if I hit with a card, it goes to gauge, and then I mean, that card's just sitting there. It's not coming from my deck. It's not coming from my hand. I've already used it. Now I get to use it again, and that's kind of like uh, and that's like a refund or a rebate on
it is
a
a rebate.
resource I've already
Yeah,
spent. Yeah. Okay.
it's like a change cards. The change cards action essentially. in the middle of a strike.
In the middle of a strike. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. And if I'm doing that from gauge, then I'm refilling my hand. I'm crucially I'm refilling my hand while also going through my deck, and that's kind of scary.
hmm
Okay.
But it just gives you the ability to attack relentlessly. And
Right.
Nagoriyuki is, yeah, such a really good solid 6 power card. And it's just if you EX this, it's a monster because now it breaks sweep. It's 7 power, 4 speed. At 4 speed, if you initiate with Suzuki at 4 speed, they can usually like opponents will try to dive over
Right.
because they don't want to get smashed by this. But if you just EX it, um, either with a badass cancel or whatnot, it's a force. They basically cannot avoid this. They will have to
Right.
get hit. So they just have to hold it if you EX it.
Right.
So it's even more reliable when you add +1 speed.
And holding 7 while I'm drawing 6 cards is that's a big loss for them.
Yeah, like eat this damage, and I'm also drawing a bunch, so I can beat you down in future turns.
Right. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then and I'm noticing like these cards are not super complicated, at least not so far. They're just really good.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like Nago's complexity lies in kind of what he wants to spend, because he's always making decisions because he's always having to discard. He also has to discard cards from his cleanup. He has to spend fours. So that's where the decision making lies. But his actual attacks are like super simple.
Okay. Cool. All
It's
right.
very easy
So
to understand.
yeah, maybe we can go through this part a little bit faster and then talk more about the economic stuff afterward. But
Yeah,
what about Kirioroshi?
Hiroshi. Yeah. So I only put this a little bit under these two just because it's not obviously not the most reliable attack. It's a mid speed.
Right.
1-2-4-4. It's pretty slow, no defense whatsoever. But if you land it, it's 7 power, ignore armor at 4 speed. So it
Yeah.
kind of just destroys everything if you land it. It's
Yeah,
just
that's a lot.
it's ridiculous. Yes, it's very backbreaking. It's basically you're dealing basically 1/4 of your opponent's life in one hit. So
Yeah.
Hiroshi, it's amazing. Of course, and again, it has a 2 force cost, but that force cost is fake. You're Nagoriyuki.
Right.
You will have force lying around to spend. So this is basically all the time 1-2-7-4. Yeah.
Okay. And just like with Shizuriyuki, if I'm hitting with this card, why would I not spend the force most of the time?
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty much like again like these costs are like these costs are like are there to basically kind of how should I say this? What's the best way to put it? I guess like these costs are fake because he has so much resources, but I don't know how to put it.
Well,
Mm,
it sounds like it's forcing you to make decisions about what you're spending. Like you're happy to spend every time, but you need to pick what it is you're spending.
yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay, I
Thank you.
get you.
Yeah.
I get you. I get you.
Yeah.
All right. Um, and I assume that the reason that this is underneath these other 2 cards is that these 2 cards you can play like without thinking very hard. You're like, I'm at range 4, range 3. This seems fine. I'm at range 3. I've got a great option. This seems fine. This one I need to like. I options have to go down to make this totally safe, or I need to have a good read on my opponent. But when I do have a good read on my opponent, they die.
Yeah, it is extremely punishing for them, basically. And obviously, this there's a very classic combo where you play Scramble, where you basically force your opponent to wild swing into this, and this just suddenly makes the card a lot better.
Okay.
But you sort of need to pair it. This card sort of either requires a read from you, or requires some canceling to basically get this to land. But it's
Some
very
kind of setup.
damaging.
And
Yeah.
because this is so scary, my opponent is going to be playing around this, right? If I'm at range 2 and I strike into them, they're like, well, I mean, it could be cross, and I'll take 3 damage, or it could be Kirioroshi, and I'll die in real life.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll play around the one that'll kill me.
Yeah, the power behind this card, it's like it's the fear of it is almost as good as landing it itself. Just because at any time Nago can unleash a 7 power ignore armor against you, and it's just like if you don't play around that, if you disrespect it too much, you might just get slapped, and
Right.
that's going to be very painful.
Right.
So yeah, it's just this card existing is really powerful in this kit. Like he needs it. Like Shizuriki is like the good old reliable, but the opponent could just play any slow and be okay with trading into it. Like they put 6 for 6, 4 for 4 against focus. The opponent could just block it. Like Shizuruki is just like very reliable, but the opponent just happy to just like trade with it
Right.
like a good amount of time. Kiroshi, there's no trade. They die.
Yeah, they just blow up. Okay. All right, so that's
Yeah.
scary as hell. Sounds good. And then how about the awesomely named Bloodsucking Universe?
Oh yeah. Very cool name. I think it's basically the same name as Slayer's Grab. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. So this is in
Because they're vampires.
yeah, in Strive, this is a command grab. So this is another mid speed. So
Yeah.
you've got your 4 speed ignore guard, and its hit effect. Shuffle 2 cards from your discard pile. Oh, so it reverses. Oh, it's like in Strive. It if you've played Guilty Gear Strive, the video game, viewers at home, he's got a blood meter, and when his blood meter fills up, he flips out and turns into a crazy vampire man like this. His command grab empties his blood meter, so you're putting cards back in your deck, so you don't reshuffle.
Yeah. This will. I mean, like I would consider this card to be. It's like in most cases, it's just a worse Kiroroshi, but the hit effect is the hit effect is pretty nice though. Yeah. I mean, it will help. It will delay your flipping, which is very good. It will also give you back options, which is also good.
Right.
The hit effect's
Okay.
pretty solid. It's just that I would put this pretty low, just because the attack. I would rate this attack pretty low, just because it's Kiroshi just often just does the job, but better. Like the reward is better.
But hits harder. Yeah. I mean, ignore guard is cool, but also what has 7 guard?
Yeah, like exactly. Like functionally, this functionally just reads ignore guard, ignore armor, because
Right.
it's very hard for opponents to have guard at 7 higher unless they faultless.
They drop EX sweep or something like that. Like you're having trouble muscling through Kiroroshi. Also, shuffle 2 cards from your discard pile into your deck, but then immediately afterward you're drawing 4. So it's not slowing.
Yeah.
It isn't slowing down your. It's not slowing it down by that much.
Yeah, it's sort of ironic because just like you play this to slow it down, but you played a special, so
Right.
you still go through more cards than you actually put back in.
Right, yeah. You would slow it down more by playing sweep or playing a normal or something.
Mhm.
Okay.
But I mean, it's another card for opponents to worry about range 1. Like it makes them like the fact that this again, like I think this card as attack, it's kind of whatever. Ignore guard, like the opponent can still block it as well, so they don't really they can just block at range 1 and not really care about this too much.
Right.
It's still good that it exists though. Like just having him more shit for the opponent to worry about at range 1, so they don't just play sweeps and focus for free.
Right. Right, because like you said earlier, if you are trading consistently as Nagoriyuki and then you exceed, you're probably losing the game. You need a pretty big life advantage, and that means you got to win clean sometimes.
Yeah, you want to try to win clean for sure. Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
They just fulfill they fulfill like very similar roles, just that this one is just way better at his role.
This one hits like almost twice as hard, and you can't block it. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then how about Zarameyuki? You got a 2-5, so basically a projectile shape.
Yeah, this is like a super slow projectile. Actually, I would put this like the lowest. I would put this like probably here. This card is pretty alright.
Okay.
Just because Nago does need a projectile to get in. It's a projectile that he does need a range option because all his options he likes to get it and do damage.
Right.
So he does need a range option. So it's good that Zarameyuki exists for sure. 2-5, 5-2-6. Low fireball, low guard, so you can just at long range you can just pretty much just throw this out and it's pretty free. Kamiriki usually is better at like range 4 or below, but Zarameyuki is also like it's like a interesting mix-up option as well, because sometimes the opponent you just like Nagoriyuki strikes on turn 1. Like if he's striking at turn 1, like it's most likely this.
Right.
But what if he's playing this fireball? So you can get them to waste sweeps and focus and just play Zarameyuki and just decide not to close it, because the close on the after effect is optional.
Right, and so this is a time unlike with Shizuriyuki or with Kiriroshi, where it's like, yeah, there's a force cost, but you're spending that force. sometimes for this one, you might want to stay at range 4 or range 5 so that you're dodging their sweep or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Like you don't want to close with this all the time.
Right.
And yeah, it's good for him to have this option because it is a mix-up option at range. Like
Right.
he can sort of rotate between. He can just like rotate between these two. He also hits at range 5, which this card can't. Um, and this after effect is very interesting because um, +3 armor and close 2. It's like you might think it's like it's 2 speed. How is this +3 armor
I was
relevant?
actually about to ask that exact question.
Yeah, it's like how often is +3 armor relevant? The answer is not a lot of times it's going to be relevant, but when it does, it's really good. Um, Sometimes you do want to get in and take a trade because you have to fight them. So it's
Right.
like, okay, like sure I can like I'll probably like I'm gonna close 2 into a focus if I do spend 2 force, but at range 2 I have so much more options than just staying at range 4. Like what I'm
Right.
gonna do at range 4 other than Kamiriki.
Right.
So it's like maybe I just do want to close in and take 1 damage from a focus. Maybe that's okay. And it's like also sometimes Zaramiyuki is like you can play this at like range 3 even or like range 2. Like you can play this at range 2 as well as a cross catcher because in case you guys don't know, a cross catcher is basically an option that opponent likes usually opponents like to defensively cross in range 2 to just say nope and get out there while hitting you. Cross catchers basically um, allows you to basically hit them even though they're crossing out of range 5, for
Right.
example. And this basically can serve as a very useful cross catcher and close 2 to chase them. But also, if you play Zaramiyuki at range 2 and they play something like a focus or a sweep, this +3 armor will be really very relevant just because you can't dodge their focus and sweep when you're in range 2. So might as well just slap on +3 armor and just
And
uptrade.
just trade up really well while still filtering for that cross in case you need it. So you can kind of cover both sides of that mix up, while
Yeah, it's a
also
unique coverage. Yeah.
yeah, and also I mean I can't imagine why anyone would cross out against Nagoriyuki defensively at range 2. He has something that's scary enough that you can probably catch people with that pretty often.
Yeah, it's like they don't want to die to this, so you can
Right.
just Zaramiyuki then range 2,
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Safe
Or even
guarded
range
project.
3.
Yeah. Oh yeah, sure. Because you're you can empty cross and make a lot of space on somebody who wants to be close to you. So
Mhm.
uh good uh slow projectile also has a lot of cross catching utility. Mixes up with your advantage opener at range, but also mixes up with your big scary ignore armor close up. So versatile card.
Yeah, it's a nice utility card, and it often catches people when they least expect it.
Okay.
So definitely take advantage of Zaramiyuki as a mix-up option. As yeah, you basically broke it down well.
Okay.
It
Sounds
does a lot
good.
of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are the special attacks. Because we've talked about it a couple times now, and as we move into boosts, just a general question so that we have some context for all this stuff. How afraid should I be of my own card draw? Like like it's gonna win me the game, but also it's gonna lose me the game, and I'm afraid of that, right? Like how do I manage my own mentality around the fear of exceeding? Should I just be playing these cards because they're so good all the time?
Um, as long as let me just, I guess, as long as as long as you're consistently dealing damage and not self-sabotaging yourself by going through the deck too fast, you should definitely just play these cards. Like, there's no need, there's not, you don't need to worry about it too much. Just make sure that you're still like reliably, whoops, sorry. Make sure you're just reliably piling on pressure, piling on damage. You get 1 or 2 clean strikes in, and just like, wow, you're good to go. I mean, like, because clean strike wins for Nagoriyuki is like 4, 5, 6 damage, um, and the opponent doesn't retaliate. It's like if he gets these clean strikes win in, then it's okay to go to your deck because you have a good life lead, and then you can afford to just go through your deck if you've done enough damage. So I think the mentality basically is it's you only have to be worried about this UA. You only have to be worried about it if you're down life. then you should be concerned.
Okay.
If you're behind, you should be pretty concerned. If you waltz, you also have to be careful about waltzing as Nagoriyuki, because if you waltz as Nagoriyuki, you might unintentionally draw more than you want to.
Draw 6 cards.
Yeah, it's like yeah, you wall swing a special. You not only pitch away a card from your deck when you wall swing, you also draw 4 cards. You go through 1/6 of your deck
Right.
from a errant wall swing.
Right.
So
And maybe
that's
more with if you happen to grab Shizuriyuki or something like that.
yeah, but at least
Oh,
you're hitting with Shizuki, I guess.
right. Which seems pretty good.
Yeah,
Um.
at least you're hitting with it if you wall swing it.
Okay. So it costly to miss, costly to get outplayed. So in the early game, because I can't afford to just strike, because I'm going to be drawing cards so much and piling on that aggression. Am I just like is the kind of general game plan just run them over as fast as I can, cancel everything, get all the pressure that I can, and just try to do all the damage that I can? Or can I afford to slow things down and play some neutral if I have to?
Good question. I will say you will pressing the tempo, pressing the advantage is often the right thing to do as Nago, because you will keep because your UA just supports you naturally just by striking. So canceling often, striking often, doing as much damage as you can. It's generally the right thing to do. You only want to slow down if like how to say this. Not that usually you don't want to slow down unless the opponent forces you to slow down.
Okay,
You know
so
what I mean?
if you are behind, like you were saying, you got to be afraid of your character ability when you're low on life or when you're behind on life. That's when you say like, okay, let's take a pause, let's play some normals, let's play some good old fashioned footsies here, and
Mhm.
try to claw back some advantage, and then press the advantage again when I get it.
Yeah, and it's like if you're striking with these specials, you want to hit with them. So it's
Right.
like and so missing them and getting stunned out of them is pretty costly for you, because like you draw a bunch of cards to compensate, but still you whiff a special and you're running out of time and you lost the combat. So
Right.
it's basically you don't want to. So Nago does have to like slow down sometimes and you know play neutral if he really has to win a combat. He really wants to land these strikes clean, and the opponent like boosted light, for example. So then he has to think carefully about his next move. So he can't just unga bunga aggression all the time. But
Okay.
if the opponent has like no boost up, the opponent is very like this is like Nago blitzes people early game because oftentimes the opponents, they don't have access to a lot of things early, while he
They,
does. He
they,
postures deck.
they don't have gauge. They haven't seen all their best options yet. They haven't had a chance to put down very many boosts. And if they have, you're striking like your pressure means that they're responding with their own resources. So you have a big advantage in the early game.
Yeah, yeah. Early game is where you are 100% the strongest. Like you have to take advantage early game, and if need be, if the opponent has a leg up on you, if the opponent has strong boost up that you have to play around, and you can lose combat too, just then you can slow down. But
Okay.
you have to put the pedal to the metal when you see the chance, which is oftentimes early game. Early game is 100%, the opportunity for you to start swinging, get in Kamiruki, start swinging and going ham on the opponents.
Got it. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Um, do we want to talk about the ultras as attacks, or should we talk about boosts first?
Let's talk about boosts. I think the ultras can be covered pretty quickly, both sides, because it's pretty simple. Yeah, but
Okay.
I do want to. I think going over these boosts is pretty important. Yeah.
Sure. Sounds good. Um,
Uh,
yeah, let's do the same thing. We can talk about them in terms of how important they are.
yeah. In order of importance, I would say, yeah, Fukio is definitely the most important, followed by, I think actually this should be around the same tier. I would think. Um, this is good, and then I would say these. Yeah, these two are pretty good, and then
Okay.
these is kind of last. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay. So,
So
yeah, Fukio, you already started talking it up. Tell me why this is so important.
yeah, advance or retreat 2, draw 2, discard a card, cancelable. Um, yes, you have to be careful when playing this sometimes on the front, especially on front side, because it will, again, it both sides of this card will go through your deck.
Right.
Both sides draw 2, but it is still invaluable for him because this card is basically it's action compression because he can cancel it. It's a movement. It allows you to immediately reposition for a really strong strike. Um, so Fukio is really good. It kind of just does. Again, he needs it because sometimes he's out of position and he needs to get in, and Fukio is basically perfect for that.
I can't help but notice. I recently just had a lesson on Faust with D, and I can't help but
Uh,
notice that Advance or Retreat 2, Draw 2, Faust has an Ultra Boost that is Advance or Retreat to Draw 1, and it's not cancelable, although Faust has his character ability. So this is like a cancelable Advance or Retreat to Draw 2 is is pretty nuts in terms of
yeah,
value of what you're getting. Like characters aren't generally allowed to have that much. Another Ultra Boost for comparison is Kai has a cancelable draw 2 on an Ultra. This is a ton of value.
yes, yeah. Like we're not, and this is not even Eno's boost. Eno is a character that has advantage retreat to draw 2. Doesn't even have a discard clause. It's literally just this, but without discard.
Right.
So Eno is a really crazy version of this. But this is still insane because it's just I mean, if you think about it, it's basically 3 force worth of value. It's basically 4 force worth of value, including a discard.
Right. And it's cancelable, so now you can use it to chase down your opponent, get into the exact perfect position for your threat, keep the pressure on, all the things that you want, or just look for options because you're also drawing cards with it.
Yeah, and often the best time you want to use it is like your range 5. You want to go to range 3, advance 2. Your range 3, you want to go to range 1 to play your slows, or you can just use the retreat 2 from range 1, and you can play a range 3 mix up. So there's a lot of ways you can use this card. You can
Okay.
use this get out of a corner. Yeah. So the movement is just so good. The draw is good. I mean, and it's cancelable. It's just it doesn't. He really needs that. He really needs this boost for sure. And
Right.
it's even more invaluable on the flip side because when you're on your flip side, you can only play normals. So
Right.
you
So
really have
so
to get into position to actually fight with normals.
getting to a range where your normals are important, yeah, that seems absolutely crucial. I mean, I was about to say on front side, if you are already at range 3, you might just want to strike with Shizuriyuki because Shizuriyuki's pretty good here. But sometimes you might have better things to do at range 1. You can be flexible with it. But on exceed side, this seems absolutely game changing in order to get in position to keep your normals live.
Yeah, it's good on front side. It's amazing backside because he needs it. This is definitely a card that sometimes you might even like wanna keep for exceed side, like not as the attack, but because the boost is just that amazing. Because you really
Okay.
need it. If your opponent is a pesky zoner or whatever that keeps trying to get away, you really need Fukio to get in.
Okay. Got
Yeah,
it.
so
That
it's
makes
so
sense.
important.
Sounds good.
Um,
And then disciplined. +1 speed.
yeah,
I know you love a speed boost.
yeah, speed is good in this character. Obviously, he is mid speeds. He has like a couple of mid speeds that he really wants from +1 speed. Kamiruki at 6 speed, they can't cross out of it. So plus 1 speed on this, they can't dive out of it. +1 speed is amazing on this character. So already just printed +1 speed is like decent.
Right.
But then the fact that it has um, a tech now effect on top of it, you may spend 1 force, you discard another boost from play. This will basically just straight up win any boost war. That anything the opponent does, you will just win. You will just like have the upper hand. It's like the opponent played light. Just kidding. I play discipline, and now I have +1 speed, not you.
Right.
And then any strong boost the opponent play, they may play stun immunity, they may play like +4 armor, whatever kind of strong boost they have. You can just say no to it. They play Way of the Warrior for +2 power, +2 speed. You just say no to it,
Right.
and you get +1 speed. Like this card gets so much tempo, it's actually broken. It's so
So
good.
this is a situation like you have Ukemi in your deck. That doesn't give you +1 speed, but it does let you cancel it. And
Mhm.
I note that there is no little clock icon on this card. You cannot strike after this, but this is actually something that you could do to pass turn to your opponent while still keeping the pressure on because you're getting rid of that. You're countering their pressure.
Exactly. Yeah. If you could cancel this, this will be broken.
Okay,
But like it's still extremely strong, even though you cannot cancel it. Like because like you said, the +1 speed exerts pressure on the opponent. They have to deal with the +1 speed,
right,
and they will now they have like no boost. They now go discard your best boost, and he has +1 speed on top of you.
right.
Like this is a great pass turn move.
Okay, and the thing
And
that you said earlier when we were talking about like how to what to do about mindset when you're striking and like how strong you are in the early game. What you said was unless your opponent has some boosts up, you probably just want to be running into them and striking. Well, if they do have their boosts up, maybe you don't want to be striking so much. Well, okay, then you can afford to pass turn by playing disciplined and countering their boost.
yeah, it's like it does double duty by when this boost enter plays, it literally does double duty for you. So
Right,
this is one of the definitely one of the boosts to play like when you're not mashing into the opponent's face.
right,
It's just a moment to stop, dismantle wherever they set up, give you +1 speed,
right.
and then you can strike into them when your turn rolls around basically with +1 speed.
Would you ever play it just for the +1 speed without a boost in play on your opponent's side, or is it totally not worth it in that case?
I would not recommend it. I think
Yeah,
it's too slow. I think it's too slow if you don't get the tech effect out of it. You might as well if you might as well just be playing something more proactive like badass scramble, even faultless defense cancel, like all these things. You might as well just do these and
right.
get a strong strike in rather than just doing +1 speed and just passing
And
turn.
passing turn, yeah, that doesn't. In fact, I mean, all that does is let you win a speed tie on defense, basically. Okay,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
okay, all
It's just like yeah, you basically got it.
right. And then what about honor? You got uh +1 power, +1 armor, strike, and so you strike. You're not is not cancelable, but you are keeping your aggression up. Set your attack face up. Okay,
Yeah, so this is an interesting boost. I mean, it doesn't look that good, but it's actually quite good at Nago. Um, yes, now it sets a strike, but keep in mind that you can also cancel before you do this. Um, so like there are a lot of times when sending your strike face up doesn't matter. Like I will say it just doesn't matter. Like either the opponent is lacking options or simply you do not care. Like for example, a very common play I like to do turn one is I like to go honor Kamiryuki because Nago wants to get in regardless. Like it doesn't matter that the opponent knows he's gonna play Kamiryuki.
right,
And with +1 power +1 armor, it's 5 power. It evenly trades with any slow. 5 power 1 armor for free.
right.
So this is such an excellent turn one play. Just honor Beyblade. Like it's such a classic Nago turn one, and he doesn't
So,
care that the opponent knows
is
that
that
he's
what
playing
you
it.
is
Because
that what you call Kamuriyuki's Beyblade?
yeah, I think people call it Beyblade as well
That's
because he literally just spin the
Oh no,
win.
I can see it. That's just a great name. I didn't know about that. That's really funny. It completely caught me off guard. I was like, is that the name of an attack I don't know? No, okay. So you honorably Beyblade on in. Um okay, and
You literally you do not care. It's hilarious.
at that point you're like, do you have a sweep? And if they have a sweep, you're like, okay, we trade even, but I got advantage, and that's probably what I wanted anyway.
And you draw 4. So
And you draw four. That's right. Okay. I do have
yeah,
to
so
keep
it's like
remembering that.
yeah, and then the opponent crosses out, you don't care either because again, you gain advantage on
Right.
the after.
Right. Okay.
So it's just honor like so. I mean, honor has a lot of interesting applications because so not only is this the common turn one play, you can also play honor when um you want to create a stat line that's like if you create a stat line that's like super like really good, you could just play honor on top of it, and
Right.
the opponent pretty much has to hold it. It's like
So
like honor.
you bring in one of these two. You bring in scramble. You bring in badass.
Yeah, you could do honor, badass Shizuruki. You can do badass Shizuruki with honor, and just 1 to 3 8 4.
Yeah.
Just block it, I guess.
Yeah. And like what at that point like hope that they have an ex basically is what you're doing. If you're in this position, they can't cross out.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like in like you once you create a stat line that's like really strong and the opponent can't really deal with it, then you can play honor for sure. Or like you play scramble, like you said, like if you force the opponent to wild swing, you do not care that they know your card because they can't control what they're defending with.
Right.
So honor scramble into honor whatever is also very good. It's just a win. It's sort of like a win more card, you know. The
Okay.
honor is.
Yeah, so
Oh,
you use it when you're in a good position, whether that means that you've got your opponent cornered or you're at a bad range for them, or you just have great stuff in your hand that you can or canceling into it to make an advantage position.
yeah, and the +1 power can be very crucial to go to breakpoints as well because you know seven power breaks focus. I mean 7 power breaks sweep, 8 power breaks focus.
Right.
So that +1 power can achieve you can with some canceling into honor, you basically can achieve some really important breakpoints. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds
So
good.
this boost is like it's probably like not like you look at a boost in a you can't look at boost in a vacuum or look at a character's stuff in a vacuum because it's really important in context of the kit. Honor is one of those boosts where it's just like on any other character it's like this kind of boost kind of meh.
Yeah,
But
but
Nago where
on
force and cards are immaterial, you
yeah,
could definitely just do
on
this.
on a character who can already hit natively for 6 or 7 kind of at will, this is really scary.
Yeah, and it's just you don't mind, spending 2 cards honor and then you strike something face up. You don't mind the cost of
Because
doing
you're
this
you're
because
getting all that
you're
stuff back
drawing so much
anyway.
cards. Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
you have so much resources. Like
Yeah.
Nago, you have so many resources to spend. So
This is like a character that you would play if you have a bus to catch. You're like, I've got to end this game really fast. I don't have time to play a lot of Exceed today. I'm just gonna play Nago and I'm gonna win really quick or I'm gonna lose really quick.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
He is a super like I'm not familiar with Magic. Apparently, people say like he's like a red deck or like
Oh,
aggro
sure.
deck.
Yeah, yeah. He's like a goblin deck. He's gonna burn himself out or burn you out. That makes sense.
Yeah, not a Magic player, but that's basically what how Nago plays. Yeah,
Okay,
and that's
I gotcha.
yeah.
So how about what do you fight for?
Yeah, what do you fight for? Return a card you discard pile to your hand. Um, this is like a boost that you don't really want to play on front side, but on back side, sometimes you really do need it because you you can only play normals. So sometimes just getting that key normal or getting a key boost that you need to leverage, then what do you fight for is pretty important, pretty good to have.
Okay.
On front, you won't be playing this much on front side because mostly you want to play Beyblade because this Beyblade is so ridiculous.
Right, and why would you ever pass turn without striking or making something really threatening on front side?
Exactly, yeah. On front side, yeah, this is again a pass turn boost for sure
Okay.
because you can't cancel it, you can't do anything else except just grab any card from the discard pile.
Okay.
But
So you use it to set up an EX. You use it to get that one thing you need to keep your opponent from exploiting some hole that you've left in your offense.
yep, and it's
Okay.
like when you're Exceed side, when you're normals man, you will have holes in your offense. So you want to patch up those holes with what do you fight for? Like
Right.
if you for example you have no grass left, so that your opponent can cross out for free.
Right.
Maybe you do what do you fight for a grass because you really need to trend the option of grasping them.
Right. Sure.
Because if you don't have a grass, the opponent can just cross out at range 1 and like they don't care. Nothing you could do can hit them. You're normal man, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have any sort of projectiles. You don't have any sort of
You
without
can use Nagoriyuki to catch crosses anymore. So
yeah.
like you really need
th-
like this is a very like unusually this is definitely an unusually dinky boost for Nago because Nago is very unga bunga.
Right.
But this is a tutor boost. You know, he gets to stop and think what he really wants.
Right.
And
It also strikes me that like normally we like when we were talking about Gordeau a while ago on a previous lesson, I was asking you like, do you value the attack or do you value the boost more? There's going to be some point in the game where you don't have the attack, and all
yeah,
of these boosts are like, well, okay, I got a handful of specials, better boost them because they're not good to me on the other side is no good to me anymore. Um, so all of these things become way freer to play and way the opportunity cost changes very different, very like a whole lot when you're in Exceed mode because what else are you doing with them at that point other than changing cards?
hmm yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
that's
It's
good for
like
me to remember.
yeah, there's stuff where it's like, and you can't you these attacks you won't be able to play them when you're flipped. So it's just like play them when you're flipped. Like I mean, play them on play these as attacks on front side. But then when you're flips, you can play these as boosts.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
the big exception is Bloodsucking Universe because that attack's just whatever. You could just boost discipline anytime.
You
But
can probably boost it anytime they put a boost down too. Okay. A scary boost down too.
yeah, but like these amazing attacks, it's like you want to play them. So
Right.
boost at your own discretion when you're on front side for
Sure.
sure.
That makes sense. And then how about drawing stance? +2, +0 to 2 range, -2 speed, hit draw 1, and it's cancelable.
Oh yeah, so I could be underrating this. I could be underrating it. Maybe it's like here, but like um it's definitely good a great boost for and a half. Just because it's more range, so it really helps you hit confirm some stuff that you normally wouldn't be able to. From you can do range of 1 to 5 sweeps. You can do assaults from all the way here. And on the hit draw one, it's just a little tiny bonus. It doesn't really matter too much. But it's good for him to have for sure. The -2 speed just does limit his mix-up options though. Like sometimes like you have to be careful when you boost this because like you might be able to do drawing stance, at range one, like for example like here, and you can do drawing stance sweep. It's like okay, like they can't escape from a sweep now, and then they just dust you or they just dive
Yeah.
over you. Then it's
Right.
like oh shit,
It,
I kind of
it's
screwed myself over there.
it's not quite as free as it looks, but you are at least representing options that you wouldn't be able to otherwise.
Yeah, and extending your range is pretty important as Nago because you want to hit them.
Right.
I think it does present some. I guess it does present some interesting options as well, where you can like play like this is again another boost where like Zarmuki is your only fireball on front side. Zarmuki is the only fireball that closes. So generally, you want to be playing this as attack board at the boost.
Right.
Like in situations where you want to play drawing stance, you can also just play Zarmuki usually
Right.
because it's a plus range boost on your only fireball. So you might as well be playing a fireball a lot of the time.
Right.
But this is definitely pretty important on the flip side again because not only can you not play this attack, you want to give your normals. You want to be able to hit your normals. So if you're in this position playing a range 1 to 5 sweep, pretty good.
Yeah.
Um,
Pretty much
you
unavoidable at that point.
yeah, or you can even like do something like you can even do stuff where you can play drawing stance and play grass from range 3.
Sure.
Your grass is basically on curve,
Yeah.
so it's 1 to 3,
You
5
pretend to
speed.
be Axel for a second.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a really interesting boost for sure because of that -2 speed debuff. But
Right.
having more range is great. So I'm
And
probably underrating this boost. I probably should put it here. Yeah,
okay.
probably on the same level.
I assume that if you're playing this, you're probably canceling it because that -2 speed is way too exploitable of a
Oh
hole for
yeah,
me to leave my opponent. I got to be striking with this right away.
yeah. You pretty much want to cancel this almost all the time.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you boost with this and pass, do so at your own peril for sure. Because some -2
Right.
speed, especially the opponent like this boost will absolutely like maybe the opponent doesn't have an ignore guard option, or the opponent doesn't have a powerful mid speed, then boosting this and passing is okay, kind of. But like if you boost this and pass turn, and your opponent had to play something as like play something like this, for example, a command grab
Sure.
that's a
Sure.
mid
Sure.
speed that just destroys slows, then you basically shot yourself in the foot
Right.
with this -2 speed. So
And
you definitely
against another season 7 character who can change the board state so rapidly, they could just be like, okay, area shift spike or area shift dust rather, and the board state is not what it looks like when you pass the turn. So you got to be really really careful against people with action compression like that too, who can really change things up quickly.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
Okay.
another great point. Guilty Gear characters definitely have so much action compression. They force situations when they want to with enough resources. So I mean, you really do want to cancel drawing stance almost all the time because you want to take advantage of the range now
Right.
and strike them with something good now
Got it. Got it.
before the
Oh,
opponent does something about it.
makes sense. Okay. Cool. Um, Tell me about. Do we want to do ultra boosts first and then ultra attacks? How do you want to cover these last ones?
Yeah, we could go. Yeah, we could go to the ultra attacks and then the boost. Yeah, real
Sure.
quick.
Sure. Okay.
Just because, yeah, I mean, I mean, these ultras are all right for sure. It's good that he has them. Zansetsu is a weird one. Let's start Wasariki first.
Okay.
Wasariki is definitely the better of the two. It's a very reliable card. I mean, it's on curve 5 damage with 4 guard. It kind of just like the only thing you have to watch out for when you play Watsurugi is if the opponent grasps you and pushes you away to range 3. Sorry, I should probably do this. You play Watsurugi at range 1, the opponent grasps you and pushes you to range 3.
Sure.
And that's pretty bad. Otherwise, it's a pretty reliable card that's often can hit pretty well. And then the hit effect, return a card from your discard pile to your hand. This is pretty interesting. It allows you to. It's one of his few forms of recursion. Like, what do you fight for is a way to recur some cards from discard.
Right.
This is another one. It basically it lets you play a card again that you normally wouldn't be able to, because you usually only can play cards your specials twice.
Right.
So it's nice that Watsurugi gives you some recursion, so you can take advantage of your specials while you're still in front. And it also becomes a decent attack on backside too, because if you have gauge, that you just want to dump for 5 damage on curve 6 speed, like Watsurugi's there for you.
Right. So on front side, you can play this and it won't trigger your character ability. You won't be drawing through your deck because that only happens on your specials. On Exceed side, you still have it, and so it's relevant as a threat there too. So it has some utility on both sides because it doesn't really mess with his character ability.
Yeah, exactly. So like on front side, you don't bleed through your deck, and on back side, you don't lose 2 health when you played it.
Right. True. Yeah. Okay.
So it's just a good, solid ultra. It doesn't do anything super remarkable, but the hit effect, it's nice. The power is solid, and then 3 gauge is like, it seems like a lot, but if you're hitting a bunch with Nago, then 3 gauge is actually not too hard to get, not too hard to achieve.
Right. Okay. And then what about Zansetsu?
Tetsu is the weird one.
Yeah.
This is an ultra that you pretty much almost never see played, but when you do play it, it's pretty hype. So this ultra is basically, it's a 4 gauge. It's expensive. It's totally useless on its front side because it does 0 damage. So don't play this on front side. But on back side, if you do end up landing Zansetsu, then it does 6 power, which is not bad. Draws you a couple of cards, and you go back to front. This is the only way for Nagoriyuki to get into front side again.
Okay. So, and now you can. I mean, you still reshuffled. You are still on a timer because you might deck yourself out now, but you have your specials back.
Yeah, you have access to your specials again, and you also don't bleed yourself out.
Okay.
So yeah, again, like both sides are timer based for sure. Just because on flip side, you're also on a timer because whenever you wall swing these are invalid.
Right. Oh, sure. You're still moving through your deck pretty fast because this is like a third of your deck right here.
Yeah, a third of your deck is basically a play on 20 card deck.
Right.
And then if you flip on the front side, you're playing on a 30 card deck now, but you draw a bunch because of your UA.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really change the fact that he's working with a timer, but flipping the front side is definitely nice because he has access to his strong specials again, and he doesn't bleed himself from normals.
Right, he's not killing himself by using his normals. Okay, but so you were saying that you almost never see this played. Just too unreliable.
Just too unreliable. I mean, it's 4 gauge, and 4 gauge is a lot. It's not very reliable. It's only 3 speed, no protection whatsoever. So basically, if you do end up playing it, it'll mostly be like at range 5 or 6.
Right.
Mostly. So it's a very
you have
funny
nothing,
option.
And in Exceed mode, you have literally nothing that hits at that range.
Yeah, so like Zansetsu could be the one thing that saves you. Yeah.
But also that means it's completely face up. Like if I'm at range 5 as Nagoriyuki and I strike and I have 4 gauge, my opponent's like, well, I wonder if it's sweep or dust. Oh, not a single one of these things hit. It's Zansetsu.
Yeah. So it's like, if he's playing it, in this situation, they 100% know Zansetsu's coming. So either they block it or don't. If you do play this card at long range, make sure your opponent doesn't cross out range. You lose the game.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah,
Like
that's a lot of
you
for
go
or
to
that's a
insta
lot of
and you
gauge.
lose.
Yeah,
You spend 4 gauge for naught,
right,
basically,
right.
and you
Okay.
miss.
And you don't get to go back to front side. None of your, that handful of specials you had, you can't do anything with it now.
Oh,
Okay.
actually, I didn't. I just noticed it's a before effect. I'm stupid. So you actually do get it to go front side still, but it's still bad to miss with this because it's 6 damage. Still terrible to miss with
Oh,
this. But it's nice
interesting.
that you still get to go back to front at least,
Right. Okay.
which is nice. Yeah, but then now you're sitting at range 7, and then you just blew 4 gauge.
Right.
It's not ideal for you. Yeah,
Gotcha.
but I will say from experience I have landed this once. It was very hype. I wouldn't say it really affected me the game outcome, but it was fun to land.
Right. And I had a whole disclaimer at the start about playing for fun. Maybe this is the card you play for fun.
This is definitely a play for fun card, but
Okay.
it is the fact that it exists is nice. It's just like oh Nago's sitting all the way at range 6, nothing hits. Well, I guess I get Spectre for 6. I'll just
Yeah.
play this, I guess.
Right.
And if you do have the resources for it, you'll definitely be glad to have it. But mostly it's kind of mostly this ultra just never gets played. Yeah,
Okay.
just realistically,
No
it's
problem.
hype.
Makes
Yeah,
sense. And then how about our ultra boosts?
the ultra boost on this. Okay, so you know how I said about Sansetsu being really hyped to land.
Yep.
Well, at least there's one way to get enough resources to do it,
Yep. Okay.
and there's the boost on Nightless. Usually Nago doesn't have 4 gauge randomly lying around, unless because usually he likes to aggressively cancel to get strong strikes. Either he's aggressively canceling or aggressively spending his gauge for force when he needs to. So usually you don't see 4 gauge lying around for Sansetsu, but at least you have Nightless here available for you. So
Okay.
a very common play, if you do want to land this Ultra, a very common play to set up at range is just play Nightless, put 3 cards you don't care about like specials, like put 3 specials in gauge that you can't play because you're actually Nago
Right.
or whatever, or cards that you don't really want to play. Period, like blocks, for example. Just dump them in gauge, cancel, and then you can play Zantetsu immediately. And
Okay.
that's a very reliable way to actually get this into play. Um, maybe I other than playing for Zansetsu and Nightless, or I don't really value this boost that much. I think he doesn't really need to sit on a bunch of gauge. Like it gives him the option to add up to 3 cards, but as Nago, you don't really like need a bunch of cards engaged. It's just usually he's happy with canceling once. Badass cancel something good,
Right.
or scramble cancel something good. He rarely needs to cancel a bunch, so he doesn't really need like a bunch of gauge to cancel, unless he really wants to win a strike.
As
So
long as he's still hitting. As long as he's still hitting a little bit, like he's maintaining a steady flow of gauge, he can probably get by with one or two.
exactly, yeah, it's like he may not like if he could keep canceling, and as long as he's hitting, he's still getting gauge. So
Right.
he could basically rebates his gauge if he cancels and it hits them.
Okay.
So I think Nihilus is very situational. I've seen, I think thanks to the Exceed client, I have like spectated games and such where I see Nagos play Nightless, and I feel like it doesn't really help them. Sure they put a bunch of cards in gauge you key charged, but
Right.
like now what? You kind of
Right.
pass the turn unless you want to cancel it for some like you put cards in gauge and then you spend a
And
gauge.
then you get rid of some gauge. Right.
Yeah, it's so expensive to cancel this unless you want to specifically gun for Zansetsu, like I mentioned
Right.
earlier.
Okay.
So it's a
Um.
very strange play to add 3 cards and then cancel it.
Right.
So
So does that mean that most of the time on front side, if you're not specifically playing for Wasariyuki, this is probably just too forced to spend?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, his ultras are like if you notice he has two force
Yep.
expenditure,
All
two
over the
force
place.
expenditure.
Yeah.
Three of his 5 specials require 2 force, and then if your
Sure.
ultras aren't serving much purpose, you can spend them for 2 force.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how about crawl?
Now crawl on the other hand, like crawl's quite solid. This is definitely another great pass turn boost for Nago, like even on front side. Just +0/1 range hit gain advantage. It forces the opponent. It gives Nago more more range, which is awesome. You can make your sweeps 1 to 4. You can make Shizuruki 1 to 4. You can hit Daimiyuki with extra range. Daimiyuki is 2 to 5, but with extra range is 2 to 6, and so even opponent cross out, you will hit them.
Right.
So this extra little bit of range is really good. On top of that, it has hit gain advantage as well. So it pressures the opponent to strike it to you, because if you pass turn to Nago, then he can pile on the offense with even more, because anything he hits you with will gain advantage and he takes another turn. And giving Nago a lot more turns, it's scary. He's gonna keep
Right.
striking you and
Because
drawing,
he will
striking.
he will kill you.
Yeah, he will really fuck you up. Pardon my French.
That's all right.
Um, if you if crawl goes off well. So this is a great opening play. Turn 1 crawl. It's good at a lot of situations. A lot of situations you can just crawl, and it's a good way to pressure the opponent strike into you.
Perfect.
And with extra range, it turns on more options at range. You can slash from range 4. You can sweep from range 4. It just opens up a lot of things for him with that little bit of extra range. So this boost is actually quite great. Normally, I prefer boosting crawl when my hand isn't really accommodating me for striking, or I want to pressure the opponent from range. That's when I play crawl.
Okay.
But otherwise, I do see people playing crawl at range 1, and I don't think that's very fruitful. Unless you want to catch cross in this position here,
Right.
and then they cross out, you hit them.
You do have a couple other ways to catch cross, and you might not necessarily need it. Like you could faultless into Kamariyuki or something like that, and save your ultra for when you're at range.
Yeah. So crawl is definitely a good pass turn play at range to pressure the opponent to strike into you.
Okay.
And if they don't strike into you, then you have a lot of options at range to now hit them with and gain advantage.
Right.
So,
Or
overall, a pretty great boost to have. Yeah.
if they pass the turn back to you, then you start canceling, and you really really make them regret it, because now you've got range and advantage on top of whatever you're throwing.
Yeah. This boost does it is pretty good. Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Cool. All right. So that's the special and ultra kit. Obviously, I've got a lot of questions about how to actually turn this into a game plan. We talked about it a little bit, but we definitely have to talk a little bit about what to spend and some of his economic considerations. But before we do, for at least some of the game, I'm going to be crutching on these normals pretty hard. And with plus power, I know sweep becomes pretty good because it breaks counter sweep. That's awesome. No other real changes to any of my character abilities when I'm, or any of my normals when I've got my exceed ability. But do I get any? Do I pretty much use my normals as normal, or are they? Does anything change for Nago, or am I valuing any boosts particularly highly? Any attacks that shore up weaknesses in my kit? Anything I should be thinking about the normals with?
Good question. I will say, okay, so obviously on Exceed side, you rely on your normals are life or death, because you can only hit opponent with normals. So
right,
he really has to crunch on them, like you said. On the front side, you still want to care about normals as attacks, because you don't want to be striking special all the time, because if you do, you probably bleed out too fast, and if you miss, it's even more disastrous for you.
right.
So you definitely want to play normals on front as well. That being said, let's see. I guess we just I guess the easy thing is that normals are. I don't know. Where should I start? Okay, I guess we can start with the most useless normal, block. Yeah. On flip side, you play block. Sure, you block whatever they're doing. But you take 2 damage
and
still.
then you take 2 damage anyway. Right.
You take 2 damage anyway. On the front side, you blocked. So what? You're not advancing your game plan. You just gain 1 gauge, and you try to. I mean, block is still. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you will be forced to block, because you don't want to take a jelly damage from an ultra or something scary the opponent's threatening.
Right.
So sometimes you will want to block on defense, or but even parry. Parry's such a pass turn slow play as Nago, and you don't really want to spend time just parrying a card unless it's really really worrisome for you.
Right. Okay.
So block is is one of the first cards I will just like pitch. Like, yeah, because again, like his cleanup, draw 4, discard 2. He's always has to think about what cards he wants to pitch whenever he plays a special. And block is one of the first things to go for me because
Okay.
it doesn't really do much for Nago. He wants to keep piling the pressure and attacking. So block kind of blows. Block sucks on Nago. These as attacks are great on front or back, obviously, because Focus and Sweep are just good old reliable cards.
Yeah, they're always great, right?
Yeah, they're always great. Yep, and it's like if you want to, often thing I do Nago is like I go in close range as Kamiryuki, and then before I unload my Shizuruki. Shizuruki is like the big reload card, right? You spend 2 4s, you draw 2, and then you draw 4 on top.
Right.
Like it's good to go to range 1 and then play Sweep, play Focus, and then play Shizu, and then you reload, and then you keep on piling under pressure.
Right.
So Focus Sweep are still great cards to play on front side when you don't want to go do a big draw just yet. Because they're great normals. They're some of the best. And obviously the boosts are amazing. Scramble and Badass enable a lot of your attacks to be really scary. Nago plus 1 speed is scary. Scramble into Kiroroshi can just delete 1/4 for the health bar, and they can't do anything about it. I will say Scramble. I call this like Scramble Kiroroshi like one of the prescribed combos. Like I see every Nago player will do Scramble Kiroroshi because it's so rewarding.
Right.
It's like a little bit of a gamble because obviously
what if they pull cross?
Yeah, they pull cross, they pull grass. Oh well, shucks.
Right.
But as long as you weigh the likelihood of if you weigh the wild swing odds decently enough, you can often go for this gamble. And if you do miss, like it sucks, but at least you do draw 4, even if you do miss. So this is definitely like it's so rewarding to almost not go for.
Sure. Okay. Even though Focus is such a strong card.
Yeah, Focus is such a strong card, but 7 power, ignore armor.
Yeah, tough to say no to that.
Yeah, and it's like this attack might not be ever reliably landed. The opponent's always playing around it, so you can just force them to eat this sometimes.
Right.
Depending how Scramble is one of those boosts where it's just like it can backfire you tremendously, but it can also just win you the game.
Right.
And usually Scramble is one of the strongest boosts. Scramble is definitely one of the strongest boosts ever printed.
Okay.
Just because it straight up just wins you the game sometimes. Dust is interesting. I mean, he doesn't really need to play Dust that much on his front side. I mean, he already has mid speeds to destroy the opponents.
Right.
But Flawless defense is great if you cancel it. Flawless defense past turn, I do not recommend it. Like it just, I mean, it's a past turn play, but it's not very useful to you because, like I mentioned, like if Nago, unless you really need to gauge, but Nago will, if you play Nago right, you should be just getting gauge a lot from hitting.
Right.
The Flawless defense,
and as you said, I'm sorry to interrupt. As you said, I don't need that much gauge, but I need a steady stream of it. So I'm not necessarily looking to like build gauge for an ultra or something. Having 1 or 2 is probably enough. So I might not need faultless defense for if my attacks are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, Nago has no, like a lot of Guilty Gear characters. Like you see them boost Flawless defense because they have some grand plans for the gauge, right? Like they want to flip, they want to build up enough gauge to flip, spend gauge to flip. They want to spend gauge to play their ultras. They want to do a big cancel chain. Nago has no such grand ambitions for his gauge. He just wants to use his gauge as resources to continue trying and killing the opponents. So Flawless defense past turn is, not really a fruitful use of your time.
Okay.
But Flawless defense cancel is pretty great on him, I will say. Like I think it's one of the things where like it's very interesting choice to make sometimes. Like when you want to go to range 1, when you play a special, you play for example Kamiriyuki, you go to range 1, and then you draw 4, discard 2. It's a very interesting decision to make whether you want to pitch Dust, because while Dust is useless at range 1, Flawless defense cancel does enable a lot of scary options for Nago all of a sudden.
Sure. You slash him, you bring in Bloodsucking Universe or Kiryoshi.
Like these 3, like all these mid speeds, like these two mid speeds suddenly become like a bit scary with +4 guard.
Right.
Like maybe they can like the most they can do is like grass you,
Grasp and
or
throw you away. Yeah.
yeah. But if you played like faultless defense, Kiroshi at range 2, for example,
Yep.
in this position, like what are they
Yeah.
gonna do
They
about it?
they really don't have many options. Slash at range 1 is always quite strong with some guard on top of it.
Yeah, Kamiryuki range 1 with faultless defense also becomes good.
Oh yeah,
So
because
it's a
it's
very
just slash again, but better, of course.
yeah,
Okay.
like you mentioned, it's just slash plus.
Right.
So it's so faultless defense is definitely like a yeah, great boost to cancel with.
Right.
Um, dive is dive. Nago sometimes just want to play dive to get in and fight the opponent. Like, sure, mostly you want to play Kamiryuki, but if you need dive, there's dive for you.
Sure.
Ukemi is great, as you know. You definitely want to usually cancel this because, like I said, you want to keep on striking the opponent and making sure that the opponent doesn't have any like boost to leverage with. So Ukemi is great. Um, assault slash is always good. I almost said assault.
Yep.
Slash is always good.
How could you, Migo?
My bad. Um, Slash is always good. Close. So I still reaffirm that like Slash is definitely one of the best normals because advantage is so good.
Yeah.
And if you hit it slow, you know it's okay because now you're at range 1 and they're down to slow and it's your turn. So Slash is just awesome. Dash, advanced tree, cancel. Definitely useful in Nago.
Yeah. Useful for the same
You
reasons
wanna,
Fukio is useful, just maybe a little bit less flexible.
yeah, Fukio is mostly better, but like dash is still nice. It's still nice to have 2 movement options that you can cancel.
Sure, yeah. And if you really want to hit with Slash, you use Fukio. If you really want to hit with Shizuriyuki, you use Dash. So having redundancy is not a bad thing.
Yeah, redundancy is good on a guy that wants to get in and fights.
Right.
Cross is interesting. You would think that actually at first I underestimate Cross and Naga. At first I'm like Cross is usually a good nope get out of there option, but it's like as Naga's like I want to get in and fight. But there are situations where you definitely can play Cross to throw off the opponent and still come in and fight. Like for
Right.
example, the opponent is cornered like this position. Um, it's a good mix-up option with Kiriroshi. Like like Nago strikes it here, and then they're worried about Kiriroshi, but instead you just play cross and you stun them and then you get out there. But it's okay because like you're Nago, you have range, you have Zarimuki that helps you get back in, you have Fukio that helps you get back
Fukio.
in.
Yeah, you got lots of ways in, and a lot of them actually make you pretty threatening while you're doing it. You got Kamiriyuki to get advantage again.
Yeah, like, and then even crawl as well. So it's just like it's okay to play cross at range 1 and 2 as long as you have a plan to get back in.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't want to stay at range for long, but you can definitely afford to cross a good amount of times with Nago, more than you would expect.
Okay.
Like it's okay to get out and get back in because you have the fireball, you have range. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Area shift is always good. Area shift is amazing. You push or pull and then you cancel it and then you can fight the opponent. You can yeet the opponent to the corner where you can try to maul them. Area shift is amazing. Yeah. So both sides are pretty good. And then grasp. I mean, grasp is a decent mix-up option in range 1. The opponent has to worry about his 2 scary mid speeds, suddenly you just grasp them. You know, like it's grasp is just solid for his mixed-up game.
Yep.
And allows you to reposition the opponents, but pull them into the corner. You know.
You mentioned a couple times also where grasp with your range boosts with drawing stance or with crawl, grasp to dodge a sweep can get pretty silly sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So like you just crawl here and grasp them is always good.
Right.
Good option to have. It's only 3 damage. The the little bit of positioning, and the fact that you have scary mid speeds that opponents worry about and melee range, it makes grasp value go up more. Just like how Potemkin values his grasp very similarly. It's like they don't want to get blown up by Potemkin Buster or
Garuda Impact. So
yeah.
sometimes you need to initiate with grasp to keep them. You'd love to be hitting for 7, but sometimes you need to play grasp so you can hit for 7 later.
Exactly. You keep them on their toes.
Right.
You stun them with grasp. You reposition them. That's the ideal scenario, yeah. So
That makes
grass is good
sense.
to have. Um, Let's Rock. Uh, I I barely. Let's. It's funny because Let's Rock. It's so good on so many Guilty Gear characters. Like almost every Guilty Gear character values Let's Rock because they usually have like one attack that's very easy to hit with
Right.
and gives them like double duty, gives them 2 gauge on top of the fact that they get plus one power.
Right.
So like just Let's Rock is amazing on a lot of Guilty Gear characters, but this is a character I basically will not really want to play Let's Rock on uh very rarely because I feel like he values grass and attack too much on front side and back side.
Okay.
Back side because obviously is its only fast normal. I mean, in range one he needs grass to hit the opponent with when you're exceeded, and on front side, again, it's a valuable mix-up option. So spending grass for Let's Rock, I will say, is pretty iffy. You have so much card draw, and you can't afford like Nago. I've always like I keep discouraging people from doing like useless pass turn moves because you can't afford to on this character. You can't just Nago. You have to throw all concepts of how you normally play character away when you play Nago because
Right. You
your
you
UA just
you need to
draws you so
accelerate
much.
so much faster. You don't care about draw one if you could draw four instead. I get you.
Yeah, it's like so pass turn moves like this and this that are common for Guilty Gear characters. Nago pretty much doesn't see that played very much.
Okay.
It's just like you have to be doing something useful, striking something useful, and try to win clean every time, you know. So it's like I try to win clean or trade nicely every time. So you cannot afford to dilly dally with Let's Rock
Right.
and give up grasp on top of it. That's just bad.
Gotcha. Gotcha. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Okay, so those are the normals and their boosts. We've talked about every card in his kit at this point. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about economy. We've talked a little bit about it already. He's got a lot of force expenditures. He's got a lot of force, so it's not going to be too hard to find the resources. But you're always going to be spending stuff. He doesn't need too much gauge. You're going to be using your gauge to pay for those resources. You're going to be using your gauge to cancel a lot. Ultras are maybe not that big a consideration. My big question is when you are drawing and discarding cards, how are you? I don't think it's possible to say, like, here's the tier list of what you're drawing and discarding in what order, but how are you deciding? Like, is it just what you need in the moment? Do you have kind of like some mental shortcuts that, like, you already mentioned, generally you want to discard blocks? That's fine. How are you navigating, like, just some general tips on how to navigate the economic part of playing Nago? Because it's going to happen every turn, pretty much, or every strike.
Yeah. Well, every strike you play is special,
Right,
which
right,
is a good amount of strikes. Yeah. But yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, so it's like Nago's a character I will say like very simple game plan: aggro, rush down, kill the opponent fast. But his micro stuff where he has to discard cards is can be pretty daunting, especially the first time playing him.
right,
Like if you're a new player to exceed, you might think like you might suffer some analysis paralysis, being like, oh my god, should I draw a bunch, but I have to discard 2 every time. Like what do I even get rid of? What's useful to me or not?
right,
Um, but I will say it's actually easier than you think as Nago. Um, because there's usually 2 cards. Like it's actually because you draw so much. It's very rarely unless your hand is small. Like you have sometimes you will have situations where it's just like, oh fuck me, I played a special and then I played a special at like I have 2 cards in hand. I play a special and then I draw 4, and then so I have like a 5 card hand, and then like all 5 cards like look really nice. And sometimes it's a tough decision to make for sure.
right,
Um, but there's a lot of times where like you draw a bunch, like you draw up to 8, 7, 8, 9 cards, and you discard 2. It's actually pretty easy to figure out what to discard. Like at range 1, like oftentimes Dago find himself at close range, like range 3, 2, 1. At range 1, it's very easy to pitch away cards that are not useful to you at range 1. Like obviously like dive at range 1 won't hit, so you can just pitch away dive. Dust won't hit, so you can pitch away dust if you need to.
right,
Zarimiki is one of the easiest cards. Like Zarimiki is a card that it's good that it exists and that you need it as a fireball sometimes. But range 1, you pretty much like never want to play either side of this card. So Zarimiki is one of the easiest cards to get at range 1 as well. Block as well, because you're not really doing anything useful with block. Um, So there's like a lot of shortcuts you can do. Like you just have to identify like what cards are not useful to you right now, or like
And
in the future even.
and you are like you're not trying to like 4D chess this where you're like, all right, in 5 turns the range is going to be different and I'm going to need this exact card because I'm going to play this and then this and then this and then this. You're sort of thinking like 1 or maybe 2 turns ahead, and if you aren't anticipating needing dive in the next 2 turns, you're willing to discard it. You don't need to plan that far ahead, right?
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. It's you don't have to make any grand plans with Nago. He's a very simple man.
Okay.
Um, it's like you just it's like you have to think about like yeah, just what do you need now? What do you need in the next couple of turns maybe? But otherwise, it's not so hard to think about. You know, like even more reasons like oh what like discarding dives like oh my god what like I might need Ukemi, you know, like so
Right.
you know I
It
should hold dive. You
good
have a
thing
better version.
you got discipline. Man, but
Yeah,
sweep is my biggest source of damage except for my 6s and my 7s all throughout my kit. Like you don't need any one card most of the time. You might need your last copy of something to keep on threatening a mix up. But you know, you aren't always afraid to throw away one copy of a card because you might have something else that does something similar.
yeah, exactly. It's like I mentioned so many times, Kamaruyuki is literally just better slash.
Right.
So it's like, who cares if you toss away like at range 1, like you know, you can toss away your slashes. You have Kamaruyuki if you really want to play it, and like even at range 3, it's okay to toss away slashes if you have Kamaruyuki, like EX Kamaruyuki,
Right.
or like some, you know, something loaded in the chamber. It's like what else? Bloodsack Universe is like his worst special. So you can often just if you don't need discipline, you can just pitch this, you know, because you're not gonna play it. Because ultras, like sometimes you might need them as 2 force, like keep in hand for 2 force. Maybe you need it, but otherwise pitching his ultras. If you can't take advantage of either of these boosts, then you can just pitch these away as well. Like his ultras are not super valuable to him. Watsuyuki is a solid attack, but it needs 3 gauge. So there's like a lot of like I think I would recommend like when trying out Nago and like figuring out for yourself. But like it is surprisingly easy. Once you get used to this character, it's no problem at all. What you will be able to identify what's useful to you and what's not pretty solidly just by where you're standing at, the range that you're standing at, and also what the card does for you.
Right.
Like this is not like this is not really doing much for your range 1, so just get rid of this. You're not gonna block, so just get rid of this. This attack is not good, so just get rid of this.
Right.
Unless you need this for 2 force, you can just get rid of this. It's just like this. It's surprisingly easy, you know.
Okay. Sounds good.
It
And you know, so basically part of the tip is like don't get paralyzed, don't get freaked out, and just, you know, those are some tips, but feel it out for yourself. I feel like that's a good place. This is such a flexible part of the game. Everybody's going to have their own read on this. I think that's probably more than enough to get people started.
yeah, and it's like you know, like I and it's nice, but it's cool that he has this micro game plan that he can that's a core part of this character because you know if you do like you can look back against it and be like hey like oh shit like you know I discarded I discarded sweep at range 1 like I probably shouldn't have done that, you know, like it's a
Right.
valuable attack and I need a badass like you could look back at games and realize what you did wrong and then improve that in the future, you know, like the decisions you make of what to discard might come back to haunt you if you discard the wrong card, but it's okay. You can just learn from these experiences, and
Yeah.
there's plenty of cards that is totally 100% easy to discard because there's either there's equivalents in his deck, like this being a better slash, this being like a stand-in for his slows, like block being like there's like either there are cards that he pretty much doesn't really want to play or care about, or there's equivalents.
Right.
So with that in mind, you can use that to influence what you discard.
Right.
Um,
This is the skill testing part of Nagoriyuki. He's got crazy attacks. You're not you're like you're not the best player in the world because you hit with Kamurayuki. That's an easy card to hit with. It's easy to get value out of. You are a good player as Nagoriyuki if you are able to manage all of these little micro decisions. That's the hard part. So that's the stuff you got to practice.
Yeah. Actual Nago, like actual when strikes play out, Nago gameplay is actually kind of brain dead. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna front. It's like scramble Kiroshi. Do I win? Okay,
yeah,
I win. Take
yeah.
7.
I probably
Uh,
won. If I didn't win, I'm
uh
sad.
Badass Shizuruki. Did you block? No. Take 7. It's
Right,
like it's very unga bunga,
right.
but managing his resources is definitely the big board, like the big brain part of it is um knowing what to get rid of and knowing what to keep. And another important thing that's also an important part of micro game is, you know,
I, you
the flip side.
you read my mind. I was about to ask if you had any. We've talked about this a lot. We've talked about like your what boosts are useful here, what attacks change here. But like any general tips about what to do when you're exceeded would be perfect.
Yeah. So when you're exceeded, well, firstly, before you exceed, make sure you have to make sure all the if there's any normals stuck in your gauge, put that shit back in your deck right now. Spend
Okay.
that shit as force, cancel it, do whatever you have to do. Because if I see you having 2 grasp in gauge as Nago and you flip, you're making a big mistake, my friend.
Okay.
Because now you have no more grass, and you know you no more grass as an option. That's really bad for you as someone that can only play ultras and normals.
Right. And
So
odds are over the course of like you didn't just hit with specials on front side. You probably did hit with a couple normals and got some value out of them that way. So they're
yeah,
something's going to be in your gauge. Get it out of there.
hmm
Okay.
yeah. Well, yeah. Maybe it's a block because block sucks for you.
Okay.
But
Right.
every normal that you can attack with, you definitely want them to be in your deck. Even if you never play Dust, you do want Dust to at least exist for the opponent to worry about.
Sure. Sure.
You play something at range 3. Is he slashing, dusting, is he slashing, diving me, or dusting me?
Right.
Like they have to hold the range 3 mix up, and it's like if you don't have dust, they can just block you, and if they just block you, that's really bad because they sell your damage, and you also take 2 every
And
time
you
you play
take
normal.
2. Yeah. So if they can just outlast you on exceed side by blocking, they're going to win.
Yeah, sometimes the opponent will try and lay me out, and you have to stop that. And by stopping that, you got to have every normal on the table for them to
Okay.
worry about.
Okay. You
Yeah.
got to play your mix ups. Okay.
hmm And then yeah, so when you're on your flip side, so if you successfully um, got all your normals in deck to threaten with, and you're on your flip side, then how to navigate your flip side? I will say, what's the best advice I can give? Um, it's definitely good to have. What's the best way to start? I guess the one thing to start with is you suddenly like bleh, I am I've been talking too much. All right.
That's all right. That's all
Um,
right.
yeah. Okay. So definitely, so make sure that again, when you're on your front side, you know how you have to worry about 2 copies. Mostly just the only 2 copies of your special, and then once you play 2 copies of them, they're mostly gone.
Right.
Exceed side is the same thing with normals. It's like um, once you play 2 copies of sweep, it's gone forever, unless you play what do you fight for. So it's like you have to be careful of definitely like represent. You have to represent a lot of options as much as possible when you play Nago and play mix-ups, because because if you don't play mix-ups as Nago, you don't represent the range tree mix-up, then you will lose because the opponent will just if you're missing a side to mix-up, the opponent will just simply answer by either blocking. If you don't have cross, they could just trade with you with focus at range 1 and just totally ignore you. It's like you have to basically keep on representing options on execute side. And also it's good to have like EXs to surprise the opponent with, but just keep that in mind that once you play an EX, you won't see that normal ever again unless you play what do you fight for
And then they
or
know
land
it's
it.
and then they know it's there.
hmm
Right.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean you can't mix them up with it, but it does mean that they know that it's an option that you're representing right then.
yeah.
Okay.
And of course you can use that to mind game your opponents. You can do what do you fight for, grab slash, and then you play dust.
Best of course. Yep. Yeah. It's always going to be a mix up, but you've got to know what you're threatening so you know what your opponent is expecting. That makes sense.
Yeah, and it becomes even more important to hit with your normals to close out the game. It can be difficult to close out a game with only normals, so you have to leverage cancels as much as possible if you have the gauge. Scramble. like focus is great, but sometimes you just want to scramble to hit them with the big old sweep or the big old slash. Um, you know, Fukio, Fukio and drawing stance. You really need like they play double duty because you want to go either get range to hit with them or get a position to hit with them. Um, Honor face up can be good to close out games with normal. It's just like you have to bring your opponent's life to 0, or else they will try and stall you out. So
Right.
you have to do everything you can. You have to eke out every advantage you can with cancels and leveraging and because you only have normals to play with, so you have to do everything you can to hit the opponent and win mix-ups.
Are you slowing down once you're on? Because obviously you're not drawing as many cards anymore. So maybe if you're trying to maintain the aggression, you've got to be taking the change cards action and stuff like that. But are you trying to maintain that aggression to close out the game quickly because you're dying, or are you trying to like slow things down a little bit and playing more carefully when you're exceeded because you're not at full strength anymore?
Good question. Um, I will say it's kind of a delicate balance, but as Exceed Nago, you can play a bit slow. You don't have to go. Of course, you have to make sure that you have to hit the opponent as much as you can. So you can't just afford frivolous strikes because if you do too many frivolous strikes, you're gonna be losing 2 health every time. In addition to
Right.
the opponent doing whatever damage they did to you.
Right.
Um, but but you can also. I mean, he doesn't really have much of a. I mean, at least you still have discipline is amazing still. He he could definitely do pass turn boost like discipline, crawl, and just always be in a range to hit the opponent with a normal. Do not like sit
Yeah.
here and just prep because the opponent can even just like do shit like wall swing and force you to burn life
Right.
because
Right.
you,
Okay. Yeah. You need to be in a range where you can threaten something because if they null strike, you're losing.
yeah, every null strike is a win for them because you're losing 2 life every time.
Okay.
So you have to always be in a range that you have to threaten something or fight them. Um, so, but it's okay. Like if the opponent tries to run away from you, and then you just Fukio and don't
Yeah.
cancel. Like it's okay. It's not. Sometimes you don't have the gauge to cancel, or sometimes you don't have a good play right now. Um, it's fine. You can just as long as you keep like sticking to your opponents so that you can try and get a good hit, a couple good hits with normals.
Right.
Then you should be okay.
Okay. And you've got plenty of force in your hand if you're drawing specials. You can, and you're not going to be boosting all of them by the end of the game. Pitch those as force to run after your opponent and chase them down.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah. If you like ultras specials, if you're not playing them as boosts, then they're totally free game to use as force to just move.
Got it. Okay.
Um, yeah. What else? Um, I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, like, you just have to keep in mind the options. Yeah. So when you play a 6 Nago, try and close out the game uh, best you can. Play grass, play slashes, play crosses, what have you. As long as you can get back in, and you have to get those hits in just to eke out and close out the game. You have to keep that in mind. And also, one other point is uh, snap. I forgot the other point.
That's all right. If you remember it later, or even after the lesson's over, just message me on Discord. I'll put it in the written guide. We can make it work that way. Um, if that is everything about the kit itself, my last question would just be about counterplay and how to deal with some Inago stuff. If you want to move on to that.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Um, yeah. So that's a great question. I mean, uh, so Nago's matchups that he's great at is against any opponents that doesn't have many fast options or play at a slowish tempo. Because against those kind of characters, he can just kind of get in their face, keep mashing, and before they even have time to properly set up, Nago can do a bunch of damage and maybe even kill them before they even get their game plan properly rolling.
Right.
So he is he is a really aggro snowball character. So it gets characters that have take time to set up. or then and like have slow counter hit attacks that he can just break the guard of.
He can just break through, right?
Yeah, he is happy with those matchups for sure. The matchups that he hates are people that have a lot of movement to try and get away from him, a lot of fast, annoying pokes, because he has to really work for his hits now. Um, Against lower characters, he can get a lot of good hits in. Against characters that are really fast and just like zip around and have a lot of speed to try and stun him from his mid speeds, then it becomes a lot more annoying. Um, you could try and like as Nago, you could try and leverage extra range to catch them and like play and play scram. Of course, scramble is the great equalizer.
Right,
Sometimes you can just scramble and get a cheeky Kiroshi in,
right.
but it becomes a lot less
Maybe faultless defense or something to deal with some of their, a DP or
fast
something like
stuff.
that. Yeah,
Mhm.
you you use some of your tools in different ways. You change up your game plan a little bit to deal with those guys.
Yeah, exactly. But
Okay,
like for that, like scramble Kiroshi becomes a lot more reliable against a character that has all sweeps than against a character that has like four specials that all stun it out.
right, sure,
Yeah, because like you're playing the odds when you force in a wall swing. So
right.
so definitely yeah. So those are like I mean I feel like Nago can handle. I feel like Nago is capable of handling a lot of matchups just because he has enough range coverage to do so, and he has enough ways to when he has gauge, canceling makes things amazing. But he definitely has to um, keep in mind what character he's going against, and change up accordingly.
Right.
Um, and the opponent main counterplay to Nago is simply either they try if he's either they try and like make him whiff as much as possible, or try and stun out, prevent him from doing his cheeky mid speeds that totally destroy you. Well, especially Kiroshi.
Right.
Because you can often take like even trades against him, and
And
like
that means you won, basically.
yeah, you have to weather the storm against Nago. And if you
Okay.
take even trades or you just run away with if you poke him with cross and run away, if you try and like because if you win the early game against Nago, it becomes a lot harder for him. Like he needs gauge, he needs to get those nice damage in, nice gauge to cancel with, and if he doesn't, then Nago is to play an uphill battle, and then you can try and lame out Nago as best as you can, and when he flip sides, it becomes even easier to lame him out, and then yeah, poor Nago will slowly die an agonizing death.
Right.
Um,
That's where all of those things that we were talking about how to play on his exceed side, like not the way Nago deals with that, we already covered it. But it's hard.
yeah, it's hard. I mean, having only normals is hard too.
Sure.
Only normals to play with is hard, and only
Yeah.
having two copies of them. So it's just like, yeah, you limit his options are limited. He's bleeding out. He's bleeding life. He can only fight range 1 to 3 because I mean range 1 to 4 dive, I guess.
Right.
Um, it's just it becomes a lot easier to just run away from him and let him slowly die. Of course, Nago does have ways to force the issue. He has ways to just come in, cancel and stuff. But you just have to make him work for as much as possible. It's like universal counterplay. Just make him work for as much as possible. Try and survive the early game as best you can. You have to don't frivolously while swinging against Nago because he might get blown up. Think carefully. Like I recommend just playing defensively from hand, and calling him out on what he's trying to do. Because if you win clean, Nago's sad.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
very sad.
Okay.
He's playing on a
Cool.
timer and you're not, so you can just leverage that the extra time you have over Nago.
Right. But if you're dead, it doesn't matter how much time he's got left on his timer. So he is incentivized to kill you before the timer runs out. You are incentivized to survive.
Yes, yeah.
Makes
Current like
sense.
the meme. The meme current objective survive. Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
that
Yeah.
this that is pretty much every character against Nago, especially early, because
Okay.
early is where he is strongest. So if you
Right.
survive early, then Nago has to play a lot harder to try and close out the game and kill you.
Right. That makes sense. Okay. Cool. Well, Migo, I think I've got what I need. You did a wonderful job. I've learned so much about this guy. I cannot wait to go and try him out. Unless there's anything else you want to mention, I think I'm ready to close us up here.
Uh, yeah, I think I pretty much covered pretty much everything I had to say. Yeah. Sorry for stumbling a couple of times towards the end. I think I was running out of theme, but
Do do not worry
thank you
about
for
it,
your
man.
patience.
Oh, of course.
Just
No,
like
please,
there's just
please,
like there's so much like components to Nago, so they just brain fart to get what to
please,
say.
please remember that you're doing me the favor. Do not worry about that. What you're doing the hard part by being the expert here. So I completely understand. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time and for your expertise. I really appreciate it as always. It's always a blast talking to you. Always a blast learning from you. Um, Folks at home, thank you for your time and your attention. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Go play Nago. He seems really cool. If you are new to Exceed, welcome. Uh, we're happy to have you. We're happy to play some games over in Breakfast Club. I will talk to you all later. Goodbye, everybody.